You're listening to Almost Beach Glass Interviews. I'm Gil. I'm really interested in the creative process. Today, my guest is Reverend Peyton of Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band. I know it's a little unorthodox for me to introduce the guest, but that is because today is a special podcast. It is the last podcast that is going to coincide with the zine that I do called Slackage Zine. This issue of the zine is issue number 12, and that concludes a year-long of spotlighting different artists and their creative process. However, this podcast is going to continue at an irregular interval, most likely. But the last one with the zine, which is bittersweet, but I'll be doing other creative stuff, so you'll see me. But yeah, in short, I just wanted to say thanks so much for everyone who is supportive on this journey, and thank you to everyone who's creative and loves to share their stuff. So thanks again, and without further ado, here's Reverend Peyton. I'm here with Reverend Peyton of Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band, and we have the honor of asking him a couple questions. How's it going, Peyton?
It's going great, man. Yeah, doing good.
I just wanted to say you did an awesome job performing. It was so fun to see you. I really dug, as I said to you just a little bit ago, your guys' use of tempo and of history throughout the set, and also just some of the theatrics as the whole band comes together. It was mesmerizing. It was really fucking
Thanks,
cool.
I appreciate that.
Hell yeah. The question that I ask artists that I think are really onto something is, what advice would you give to aspiring artists?
Okay, well, I guess it's a two-part question, because is that an artist that is wanting to create art for the sake of art, or an artist that's wanting to create art for the sake of making it a career?
Ooh.
'Cause that's two different things.
I guess I appreciate separating the question into two parts.
Yeah.
I guess speaking to that first part, art about creating art, or art for creating art.
Well, art for the sake of creating art is, you should just do what absolutely makes you happy. And the rest of it doesn't matter then. You know what I mean? None of it matters. That's it. It's just you should do what fires you up, And that is not unlike the person that wants to do it as a full-time thing. But if you want to do art as your career, then you must do what fires you up. You have to that first part, right? But then you have to walk away from everything else.
So to speak to that first point, I feel like with anything that truly matters to me, there's that initial glow of it feels great, but then you have to push through a lot of tedium, a lot of pain, a lot of boredom,
yes.
To actually see your ideas to fruition. How have you balanced that as a dedicated artist?
Well, I mean, music particularly, there's a whole lot of crap that goes along with it. Like all the bad things they say about the music business, it's actually worse. And that's the God's honest truth. I wish it wasn't true, but it is. But, for those of us that decide that they want to pursue this as a career and make it a life and a livelihood, you just have to do it. And you have to somehow suck it up and find it and deal with it. And the problem with the music business is that it's a weird kind of person that thinks they can they not only can, but should stand up in front of hundreds, thousands of people and think those people should stare at them. So you have to be a little bit weird, and that actually, it draws narcissists in. So there's a lot of narcissists in the music business that are, so you have to watch
they're very
that.
Evident though, when I can tell when someone's Flea, for example, he loves music. There's other musicians out there who I can tell they're, looking for a certain level of approval.
Well, you know what's strange, man, is that they're almost, you'd be surprised. There's some really fucking good musicians that are absolute narcissists. There is. I wish it wasn't true. It's true. Being a sociopath or narcissist doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to be awesome at music. That's what's so infuriating for those of us that are not that. So what you have to do is, if you're going to survive music as a business and you're not that, then you have to somehow manage to figure out. You have to hold on to a certain amount of your own self and humanity. And how I get through it is I put it into my music hard, and then I just focus on that. And then you just can't get caught up in what everyone else is doing, because you don't know if someone's got a rich daddy or a famous last name, or they were willing to stomp on all their friends to get where they're at. You don't know what they did, right? You don't know what they did. And then sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes it's just dumb luck, man. I mean, there are some amazing artists throughout history that died in absolute obscurity, that created amazing things that no one ever got to know. And that's just the way it is. And if that scares you, then you kind of can't do it. Do it for fun. Don't do it for a livelihood, because you got to be real careful what you wish for.
So what I heard is the way that you have used passion to fuel you and not narcissism is all of the ill parts of the music industry. You've refocused that energy back into your craft.
That's it.
Kind of like magnifying the good parts and letting the negative parts bring you up even further.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it goes back to the first part. The reason why we did it in the first place, right? The reason why we showed up was because we loved it. So we do what fires us up.
That's obvious, dude.
Right?
Hell yeah.
So that's it. So you just go back to that. You do what fires you up. But but I did. I did especially when we first started, is we walked away from everything else. So we sold everything we owned, and we lived in a van for 2 years with no home.
How long ago was that?
That was 2006 when we started out full time.
How did you know you wanted to make that commitment?
Well, we got to where we were unable to balance our day job with this. It was not possible. So we either had to cut back on this or quit the work. But if we quit our job, we didn't have any money.
Makes sense, yeah.
So it's like, well, then let's just be homeless. That's what we did.
I guess when I say it makes sense that you took that elements of strain and pain and truly put it into your music, as we were speaking on just a second ago.
But I mean, all the things that people think of, like birthdays, holidays, family events, funerals, all the things that people think of when they look back at life, we missed out on all of it. We had to walk away from all of it. And we had to get in a van and we had to chase this down. That's what we had to do. That was the cost. And it still is to a certain extent. So that's why I always tell people, I'm like, be careful. But because if you want to do it, unless you got a rich daddy, unless you got a big famous last name, or something like that, or some lucky break somehow, right? You win the lottery or something. Unless that happens, then the only way to do it is to walk away from everything else. And sometimes I tell people that and they don't like that answer. And I go, well, right now there's this kid and he's 21 years old and he looks like a model and he's got family money and he's willing to walk away from everything else to make it happen. And you're competing for shows and gigs and, articles and
with someone with bottomless resources.
That's who you're competing with. So you have to kind of be willing to throw yourself in the pool,
Yeah.
And if you're not, then that's okay, because it takes a lot, man, and it's too much to ask, really. So if you just want to create art for the sake of art that fires you up and helps you get through life, because life can be an enigmatic, strange, lonely, amazing place. The art helps us get through that. Like you don't have to do the art as a living. I have friends that they quit doing music full time because it was destroying them, but they didn't quit playing music. Like maybe they just kept making records in their basement, or they were like, you know what, like this is too much. It's not worth this trouble. But also, like for me, like all those things I walked away from, like some people would probably be devastated, but honestly, I just love this. I love being out here. I love playing music. Music was always it. And like I remind myself, like, whenever something's bad, we have a bad show, or it's a bad this or bad that, or we get really close to a festival, and then we get passed over for it, whatever. Whenever that happens, I just remember, it's like I would be doing this for nothing in my room anyway. You know what I mean? That's where I started out. So I just focus back on that. I go, and then also too, I just refocus my efforts. Like if we have a record and it does well, but it didn't go where we wanted it to go. And it's like, well, back to the drawing board. I'm just going to write the next record. It's going to be better next time. So I'm always just throwing myself in the next thing, man.
I see a very athletic parallel with you guys in the sense that this feels like your gym. It's the grind on and off stage is the fuel to go forward, and I really admire that, and I hope that I can take little bits and pieces of that and apply it to my own life.
I just have I'm relentless. Relentless. That's probably one of the best words to describe me is I'm relentless. I just keep coming back. I keep coming at it, and I don't know when to quit, and I never have. And you know, I think it's part of like having like a gambler's soul. Like it's a good thing I didn't take up gambling.
What's a gambler's soul?
Well, a gambler's soul is when you get close, it's almost like a win.
I know what you're talking about.
In fact, that's the disease that gamblers have, and because a loss is a loss. Doesn't matter if you're close. In gambling, a loss. Doesn't matter if you're close. But for a gambler's soul, when you get close, it feels like a win. And in my life, in order to remain doing this in this career, doing this, when we've gotten close, it's felt like a win. And I know that I have a gambler's soul.
Cool.
And that's part of it.
Dude, hell yeah. I think that you're not just gambling, but winning along the way. So,
well,
dude,
thanks.
This was an absolute treat to see you guys. This was really cool. And I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.